Welcome back to the Marriage Puzzle Podcast. I'm Julie.
And I'm Thomas.
And we are in our podcast series of 15 lessons after 15 years of marriage. And we're all the way to lesson number 14. And just because we've gotten asked, I want to open up with we will continue after the 15 lessons. So keep joining us every week. On Mondays, a new podcast will release. But with lesson number 14, today we're going to be talking about remembering your why.
Yeah, and in preparation for this episode, I was trying to think back and wonder why in the world did I actually marry you? And
why did you marry me, babe?
It's not gonna sound good at first, because my my first thought is, to be honest, after 15 years of marriage, I actually don't remember. And that's not to come off as a negative point of view. That's just because our marriage has gotten so much better that I don't remember the beginning. I mean, it didn't stand out in the beginning. It stands out now to me as a great marriage. But if I had to think back on it, it would probably be a lot of superficial answers. Like if you would have asked me that when I was 20 years old,
young and in love.
And yeah, and I probably would have had a bunch of superficial answers. Like, you were pretty, you were a good cook, you were funny. Like,
I was pretty.
At the time, yes. Still now, yes. Jeez, now I'm on the hot seat all of a sudden.
No, keep going. Tell me why you married me.
Listen, we have an outline of the podcast, and Julie's going way off script now. So that was
fun.
not a prepared part of it. So yeah, I think that you've got me all messed up now. But yeah, those would have been some of the answers that I would have given you back then, because I was 20 years old. I didn't really understand depth of relationship. But I think as I sit here now, I could probably look back and say that was probably why I married you, was because there was a person that I enjoyed getting to know as another human, and I wanted to continue to get to know you and learn who God made you to be. And so I wanted to get to know you on a deeper level. And the only way I could do that was by committing myself to just you for the rest of the time that I'm on this planet, or I guess that you're on this planet. And so that would probably be what I would say was the why that we got married from my point of view. Kind of like that visual of, the onion that has layers, and you have to kind of peel those back to, get to the center. That's the way I think of it. I mean, if you don't tell your secrets to random strangers, you're only going to tell them to committed friendships, people who you're committed to in a deep friendship. And so that's kind of how I viewed it. Like, I wouldn't get an opportunity to know you on that deeper level if I didn't commit myself to that relationship for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, we were young and in love, but we rode that honeymoon stage for a while of learning each other and loving each other. But I think so often that quickly fades, even just learning to live with someone. And you see the onion analogy, like, it's not all beautiful. That's why I was making fun of, like, I was pretty, because, it's ugly sometimes now. After 15 years of marriage, but I appreciate that you
Sometimes
said...
the onion makes you cry.
I know. We could keep going. But I appreciate that you said it's a great marriage now. We've really had to work on that and learned a lot. That's why we have this podcast series.
And in fairness, it is a great marriage as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
There are days where it's not great still.
Right.
I mean, we still have those down days. It's still kind of like a roller coaster, but
that happened even this week, and I knew this podcast was coming. I'm like, well, this is what it is. Like, in those hard days when the honeymoon stage is over, you have to remember your why. You have to remember why you started, even if you don't remember.
Right.
Like, you have to dig deep. I mean, because so many people even are in. We've heard from our listeners who message us, and it breaks our heart, but it's actually why we're doing what we're doing with Marriage Puzzle, is because we hear from so many people who are in going through a tough time. You know, they're in a rough season. I want to call it a season because it doesn't mean that they're in a rough marriage, but they're in a rough season of their marriage, and you know, they can start thinking that they made a mistake. And what do I do? And they're reaching out to us, and we want to say you didn't make a mistake. You actually made a choice to get married. You know, we were young and in love, but we still, whether we knew what we were doing or not, we still chose to get married. There was a reason why you chose, you know, our listeners chose to get married. So you didn't make a mistake.
Yeah, and even if you got married for a non-traditional reason, let's say, you know, you were pregnant before marriage or something, you still at some point, even if that was a reason, you didn't marry the reason, you married the person. You still chose to marry the person because at some point along the line, even if the reason influenced that, you chose, okay, I can see my life with this person. So I believe that, you know, with enough work that we can still have a thriving marriage. So, you know, you envisioned life with that person, not just the reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's why I'm saying they chose to get married. We chose to get married. You chose to get married. You choose. You don't force somebody in the USA that we live in. You know, there's not like they're arranged marriages, so it's kind of a mutual decision. And when things get hard, you still have to choose them. You have to choose to love them and remember why you chose to get married in the first place.
Exactly. And you didn't just choose the legal action of getting married. You chose to marry the person. That's what I'm really trying to drive home here is it's not just about the thing that you did. It's not about the action that you took. It's about the person that you chose to be with.
Yeah, actually, I listened to the John Deloney show. John Deloney was a guest. He was a guest on our show, which we were honored to have back on lesson 7 of the 15 lessons after 15 years of marriage, which we titled "Don't Say the D Word." And so we were talking to him about how people can threaten divorce. But the John Deloney show is a call-in show podcast, and so I was listening to that, and a caller was a guy. He actually called kind of what we're talking about. Just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if I love her anymore. You know, maybe I made a mistake. And John straight up asked, Dr. D said, well, then why haven't you gotten divorced? You know, if you're feeling this way, why haven't you left her?
Because marriage is a choice and staying married is a choice.
Yeah. So he just straight up asked. I mean, he's not for divorce. Like if you listen to our podcast, you'll hear our his stance on that. But he just straight bold asked, well, then why? If you feel that way, then why haven't you left her? And he began to share. The caller just said, you know, well, because I value the vows. You know, I made a commitment. I value the commitment. And John Deloney just helped him see that he didn't then value the human on the other end of that commitment.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually a really selfish value. Would you say that he's basically saying that he valued more the task that he said he was going to complete? He valued more upholding his end of the bargain rather than working harder to value the person that he chose in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, that's like more of the commitment or the contract over the commitment.
Right.
You know, like if you value your spouse or even yourself, you know, you'd say like, I only have one life, so I I chose this. I chose to do life with you. And I want to love my life, and I want to love you doing life with you.
Well, and how special is just that moment? I mean, what you just said, that, you know, in our situation, you chose to do that life with me over the 7 billion other people on this planet that, you know, that's a pretty dramatic odds in my favor kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even Dr. Deloney said on that one, it was like a 10 minutes, thing, but I got so much out of that caller and his response. And so Dr. D said, marriage is a daily vow that says, no matter what we might face today, I promise to face it with you, and I will make the same promise again tomorrow. So I think that's what we're saying. It's just, when times get tough, you have to remember your why. And then practice it daily. Find your why and choose to love that person daily, just like you chose to marry them. You chose to fall in love with them. You chose to ask them whatever it is. You chose to do life with them. So you have to remember that and remember why, and then practice that daily.
Yeah, and not to mention that if from my point of view, I know that I've wholeheartedly committed to you, then I will expect that you've done the same thing for me. And we're going to be much stronger facing the world together if we both choose to wake up and make that commitment again every single day. We're going to be able to face the world much stronger as a team than individually.
Yeah.
So
if you're listening and wondering, how do you find a why? You don't remember your why, like Thomas started in the beginning. If you've been married for a while, like we're at 15 years, and you still don't remember why, or even if you're early on and you're just like, what did I do? We're going to do something special and lead by example here. Special for us, at least, but you'll get to hear our wedding vows, because we think you could start there. Remembering your why, whether you wrote them to your spouse or had traditional, they still meant something to you, and you vocalize that to your spouse. So find them and say them to your spouse now, and try to remember your why that way.
Yeah, and again, we don't want to go back, and we don't want to contradict ourselves here and say that it's about the vows. It's not about the commitment. It's not about the action that you took that day. This just might be a way for you to kind of jumpstart remembering that why again. So use this as a tool to get to your why. Don't get confused and mix this up and think that this is the why.
Yeah, it's about the person. But I said it's a special moment because even just pulling them out and prepping them to read, again, 15 years later for us, I'm like, I might cry. Like, this is special. They still have weight. Again, whether you wrote them or traditional, they still have meaning. And that's a special moment and a great place to start when you're remembering.
Yeah. I have to say I'm a little nervous. I just took off my ring and handed it to Julie because part of it is the ring exchange. So I expect you to do the same to me here.
We're gonna put rings on.
So we're gonna do this whole thing again, and reenact. I mean, you can't see it, so just pretend that you're at our wedding. I'm gonna go first. Man, I'm really nervous actually.
This is like a wedding day.
Are you gonna walk away right now? Like, are you gonna leave me on the altar?
No.
Okay, here we go. Julie, I will honor and respect our marriage and be by your side, loving you through it all. I'm committed to be the husband of your dreams. I promise to love you without condition, with all that I am and all that I have, completely and forever. Julie, I give you this ring as a symbol of my love for you, and of my promise to honor you, comfort you, and be faithful to you and to our marriage through God's grace for as long as we both shall live.
Aww.
She didn't cry.
I have to read it now.
She did cry on the wedding day.
Yeah, so here we go. Thomas, I will honor and respect our marriage and be by your side, loving you through it all. I am committed to be the wife of your dreams. I promise to love you without condition, with all that I am and all that I have, completely and forever. I give you this ring as a symbol of my love for you and of my promise to honor you, comfort you, and be faithful to you and to our marriage through God's grace for as long as we both shall live. Had trouble putting his ring back on. But we said I do's and hugged, kissed, and it was very special. But that was a special moment that you guys all just listened in as we.
That was the first time we've done that since
15 years.
15 years ago.
I mean, we've watched our wedding video and heard it
We've
back.
heard it back.
But that's why I'm just like, it's simple. Find your wedding vows, pull them out or remember them and say them again. It's not like a renewal of your vows so much as just remembering your vows.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
I love you.
I love you. And, if you're still listening and you're still struggling with what we're talking about right now of, remembering your why and how to do that, we can help. Again, this is why we do this. We're passionate about not just improving our own marriage, but walking alongside of people in your marriage journey, figuring out the marriage puzzle together and solving that one step at a time. And so if you're struggling to remember your why or even find your why, we can help, and we'd love to help by jumping on a discovery call with you and your spouse to write out a vision for your marriage. So if you're interested in that, in a minute, we'll tell you how you can contact us. But again, just remember you didn't make a mistake. You chose to get married, and you need to remember your why behind that. So thanks again for joining us. Our podcast releases every Monday. Even after the 15 lessons of 15 years of marriage, we'll have weekly podcasts coming to you in the new year. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Marriage Puzzle, or our website, marriagepuzzle.com. That's where we'll keep you updated on big announcements coming. And you can sign up for our email newsletter so you can reach us there through the website or social media or however you want to reach out to us.
Yeah. If you're interested in that discovery call, right now, you can also send us a DM through Instagram, and we can also get you the information directly there.
Yeah, and check out show notes for a podcast. Make sure you guys are subscribing, leaving us a rating, things like that. We really, really appreciate your support so that we can support more marriages as well. So again, we look forward to joining you next week, where together we'll work on marriage one puzzle piece at a time. See you later.
Have a good week.